Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. A San Diego man allegedly threw his girlfriend headfirst off the third-floor balcony of their apartment after she threw his stuff off the same balcony.
Albert Turner pleaded not guilty to one count of first-degree murder. Both his family as well as the victims were inside the courtroom for his arraignment.
He's been advised of his constitutional rights and signed an acknowledgement form thereof.
57-year-old Albert Turner appeared in a Chula Vista courtroom Wednesday for the murder of his girlfriend, 61-year-old Irene Williams.
I do.
And do you give up that right?
I do.
According to investigators, the two were arguing at the San Isidro Senior Village apartment complex Monday, where Williams lived, when she started tossing Turner's belongings over a third-story balcony. That's when they say Turner threw her over the railing. When officers arrived, they found Williams in the courtyard with head trauma and a broken femur. She was taken to a local hospital and was later pronounced dead.
The defendant has 2 prior strike convictions as well as 2 prior nickel allegations. Currently, with what the defendant is charged, his maximum possible exposure right now is 85 years to life.
In court, the judge asked us to blur Turner's face. He showed no emotion, but at times looked over at both his family as well as Williams, which included her 3 adult children.
I think they're taking this as best as they can, taking it in stride and just moving forward as best as they can in the next steps of the proceedings.
Turner is being held without bail. He's due back in court at the end of June. Shanna Handy, CBS 8.
Now, in this alleged incident that took place in a apartment complex on the 500 block of San Isidro Boulevard, 57-year-old Albert Turner allegedly got into an argument with his 61-year-old girlfriend, Irene Williams, and as they got into this argument, it eventually escalated to the point where Irene Williams got so upset, she began taking the personal property of Albert Turner and throwing it over the balcony of the apartment that they lived in, and as she threw his personal property over the balcony of this apartment, this is where 57-year-old Albert Turner, an ex-offender with several things on his record, allegedly got so incensed that he wound up picking up 61-year-old Irene Williams and throwing her over the balcony head first, 3 stories down, and this led to Irene Williams winding up with a broken leg and a severe head injury, and as she was taken to the hospital, she wound up passing away, and Albert Turner wound up being taken into custody by the San Diego police, where he is now being charged with first-degree murder in a recent arraignment. Now, the San Diego Police Department see the alleged behavior of Albert Turner and Irene Williams as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the behavior of this couple, it definitely fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, and also fits the pattern and profile of behavior of feminist indoctrinated women that I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis, and also fits the pattern and profile of behavior that women participate in that leads to them becoming single in my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. And it definitely looks like to me that basically Irene Williams went out here and overestimated her power in this relationship like many black women do, and basically the 61-year-old woman who was living with this 57-year-old man thought that she could be the one who could dominate and control this, what I would call an old Pookie, and as she looked to dominate and control this old Pookie, she started an argument, I believe, that possibly led to her demise, basically thinking that she could verbally go out here and attack this man. And as she looked to verbally attack this man, she didn't understand that she was dealing not with a regular guy, but was dealing with an old Pookie who basically was a guy who basically had nothing to lose. And as he had nothing to lose, he was in this relationship with this older woman who possibly was looking to be overbearing. And that whole situation led to this guy simmering and boiling in anger. And that as she looked to start this argument, she wound up escalating things to a point where she was showing how little respect she had for this man by taking his personal property. And as she took his personal property and threw it over the balcony of the apartment, this is the thing that basically triggered this man, and triggered this man to the point where he felt like he had nothing to lose. And as he exploded in this rage, what he did was then look to take this 61-year-old woman and throw her over the balcony for showing little regard for him and his property, showing little regard for him and his property as related to this situation, a situation of an older woman getting involved with an old Pookie, and fostering a codependent relationship where she believed that she would be able to maintain the same type of power that many younger black women do when they get involved with these thugs, when they get involved with these gangsters, when they get involved with these bad boys. They're used to having the place where they're having the apartment in their name and having everything under their control, and they basically think they can treat this grown man like a child, not understanding that these males that they're getting involved with are basically ticking time bombs. And they're ticking time bombs because this is a guy who has basically gotten several prior convictions and was basically on going on near 3 strikes. I mean, this guy was basically on a road to possibly being in life in prison. He was a guy who had absolutely nothing to lose, but this woman basically thought she could go out here and continue to antagonize this man, look to possibly antagonize this man, thinking that she could try to, again, bully and intimidate him, not understanding that this man was under a lot of pressure. And again, this woman really was not critically thinking about the guy she was involved with, because when it comes to a lot of black women, they really don't think about the kind of guys they get involved with. And sadly, what happened here is that this woman, she's one of those women who grew old but never grew up. And as she grew old and never grew up, she basically got involved with old Pookie, who also grew old but never grew up. And as both of these immature older people went out here and got into some drama in their older age, sadly what happened was we had this great tragedy where this man basically wound up losing it. And as he wound up losing it, he wound up losing the most important intangible of all, and that was his freedom, because he acted on impulse. He acted on impulse, not thinking critically about this situation. But I guess this guy basically, he was so caught up in fear of being homeless that he basically wound up snapping, I believe in this case, and he went from being a free man to winding up becoming a man in crisis, because now he's in a case of first-degree murder where he possibly will wind up getting convicted, and he possibly will be going from living with this woman inside of this apartment in San Diego, inside of this apartment with a balcony with a view of the outside, to a penitentiary where he will get no view of anything at all, and he will possibly be winding up returning from being under his own autonomy and the domineering woman who he was living with in his older age, to now possibly spending the rest of his life returning to prison where he will be under the authority of the COs and will now be under the people on the social pecking order of Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, and will now possibly go from being able to eat whatever this woman bought in the house and whatever stuff he could get, to now possibly looking to try to tolerate the slop in the cafeteria and possibly looking to barter for some commissary such as Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, Taster's Choice coffee, Keef coffee, off-brand orange drink, off-brand grape drink, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand fruit punch, off-brand mango drink, off-brand apple juice, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand ginger snaps, off-brand sugar wafers, Hunt's snack pack puddings, packets of soy sauce, packets of duck sauce, packets of sriracha sauce, prison chips, prison pretzels, hot and sour pickles, hot and sour peppers, beef summer sausages, packets of chicken, packets of tuna, packets of shrimp. I mean, basically, dude is gonna be bartering his front side and his back side with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, and basically waiting for Mr. Sprinkles to come in, spray the front side and the back side with special sauce, and then split the cheeks open and show dude's backside looking like the inside of a Louisiana crunch cake. That is basically how this guy is going to be spending the last of his days, because he wound up in a situation like the 6x8 simp winds up in, because basically this is a situation that the 6x8 simp winds up in. He's in and out of jail, and eventually he winds up having to live under a woman, and as he's living under this woman is basically the one who thinks that she has the power, because she thinks, oh, I got an apartment, I got a job, I got leverage over this dude, and this guy is going to be in my house and do whatever I want. But eventually what happens is that this guy, as he's in this home, he's basically frustrated about being emasculated. He's frustrated about being emasculated. He's also frustrated that he basically has no power as a man and can't take no leadership role as a man. He can't really set direction and tone for himself as a man, and that's what makes him a man in crisis. But what makes her a woman in crisis is that she's thinking she can dominate this man in this codependent relationship. She thinks she can dominate and control this man, and basically think that she can treat this man all sorts of ways. And as she does this, what this makes is a situation that is a powder keg where this dude is seething. And what's really sad here is that you've got people who are supposed to be old enough to understand how to operate, but sadly, because they're stuck in a state of arrested development, they're still acting like they were in their 20s, in their 50s and 60s. That's what's really sad about this whole tragic situation. I mean, they were still in the situation, still trying to pull the same type of drama that they pulled when they were younger, and as they look to pull this drama that they pulled when they were younger, sadly, this is what makes this whole situation sad, that these women, that both this man and this woman have grown old and haven't grown up, and basically showing little respect for each other as they participate in this ghetto drama, and wouldn't even think about, okay, I got issues with this man, and be able to break up in a positive fashion by saying, okay, he go his way, I go my way. We're going to charge each other to the game and keep it moving. No, what this woman wanted to do was pull the same ghetto and ratchet stunts that feminist indoctrinated women do when they have no respect for a man. They want to express their contempt by throwing his stuff out on the street, not understanding that if this guy's an ex-offender, he's already had 2 going on 3 strikes. This ain't really something smart to do, because this guy is at a point where he's at the boiling point. At 57 years old, he ain't got nothing to lose, and he's already done 2 bids where he's got 2 strikes, and 1 more basically means he's just gonna go up for the rest of his life. And at that point, this is a guy who has nothing to lose, and there's nothing more dangerous than a guy who has nothing to lose. And that flew over this woman's head, because again, a lot of black women, they get in their egos, they start getting arrogant and full of themselves, thinking they can push this guy's buttons and agitate him. And as they look to agitate him, again, you don't know that you're dealing with a guy who is an atomic bomb. And again, if you're dealing with a guy who's an atomic bomb, he's going to create a situation where both of you go from being free men and women to both of you winding up in a situation where both of you become men and women in crisis. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the behaviors of a beta male who's a ticking time bomb, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com. And if you want to learn the behaviors that lead to women winding up in situations like this and how to avoid them, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com as well. As long and if you want to learn why women like this wind up in situations like this, you can pick up my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Again, all three of these books are available on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. They're also available at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos about the season of The Simp and The Man Crisis and The Woman Crisis, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this all-new Spinsterella story. Pre-order your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer at Amazon.com and other online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Esteem Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.